What's happening, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com, once again getting a chance to hop into the private servers of Nosgoth with Square Enix and Psyonix, this time to check out the new human class, the Vanguard, that we once knew as the Shield Bearer for a little while there, and I guess now they've officially named him the Vanguard. And I've got to admit, he's a lot different than I had imagined, but I guess it's mainly because I didn't realize his weapon, beside this massive shield, of course, is a throwing axe of different types. So, just like I did with the recent Vampire Summoner class, I'll give you guys a nice rundown of the new Vanguard, which is supposed to be available today, February 24th, but for some reason got delayed until tomorrow. Either way, he's coming really soon. So starting out with a little background lore on the Vanguard, otherwise known as the Shield Bearer, or more formally, the Drowning Men of Meridian, these guys make up battalions of tough warriors founded by a mixture of convicts and overseers who together survive the vampire assault on the Isle of the Dead. The Drowning Men now attract the lost and the damaged and the wicked from throughout the war-ravaged human settlements of Nosgoth. Criminals, deserters, pirates, battle-scarred veterans, blood-soaked priests, and haunted medics stand together as a bulwark against the vampire herds.
Leave none alive!
So there you go. These are the guys that will get the job done and risk it all for the group, which makes sense in their role on the battlefield. As a Vanguard, your job is to soak up some of the damage, not all the damage, and support your allies. And like I mentioned, the Vanguard plays a little bit differently than the other human classes. In fact, my first impressions made him feel more like a vampire class from the human's perspective. I guess that comes with the whole tanky human aspect of it. He's pretty much the human answer to the tyrant vampire. First up, let's talk about his shield and abilities. As you can imagine, the Vanguard can pretty much deflect damage continuously. You do this by holding down left click like you would with the Reaver's Pounce ability, and if you get hit with a melee attack by a vampire while blocking, you take highly reduced damage, but you still take damage slowly, so you do have to counterattack and or react or get help from others while taking all the damage. You're tanky, but you're not a super tank. Plus, the shield doesn't wrap all the way around you. You're still very vulnerable from behind. And from what I've been able to tell so far, the blocking doesn't affect the vampire's abilities against you. It doesn't keep bombs from doing damage. It doesn't keep sentinels from swooping down and picking you up and dropping you on your face. And as you might want to know, it doesn't quite stop a tyrant's charge. The trade-off here is that you can block continuously, like I said before. Oh, and it does help to remember to block. That might be something you have to work on, like I do. So his default primary ability is Shield Bash. Pretty self-explanatory. You get to slam an enemy back with your shield, dealing 275 damage, knocking them back and disorienting them for your next attack. So it's a nice combo attack with your throwing axe. Of course, mainly because whatever enemy you hit probably feels something like this. The alternative to the Shield Bash is the Shield Charge, which is very similar to the Tyrant's Charge, except a lot shorter distance. With this, you can damage any enemy you run into, and also knock them down, dealing 150 damage with each enemy you collide with. This is really helpful when you're trying to get out of a multi-vampire attack situation, or even pushing past enemies to get to your allies, which is something you want to do in the first place, trying not to get singled out. You also have an alternative to both of those two primary abilities that I just mentioned called Judgment. So the Vanguard has three options for primary abilities, just to clarify. Judgment is quite different than the other two. This is more like the Tyrant's Ground Slam, but again, not quite as devastating. This attack does 200 damage in an AoE, but it also instantly kills any vampire with lower than 30% of their own health. This one's really cool, but it may be a little bit more challenging to use until you get used to it. His secondary ability is one that not only benefits and applies to him, but mainly to his allies. It's called Rousing Cry, and it's designed to fortify nearby allies by increasing their movement speed and overall health regen for a short period of time. This effect lasts for 5 seconds, but you and your allies get a 20% increase in movement speed and 3% per second faster health regen. It's pretty useful, honestly, especially since the best tactic with the humans, as you guys already know, is to stay together. So if you have a Vanguard in your group, just made that tactic even more useful. The Vanguard also has 4 choices when it comes to his weapon. The default is the Kama, which seems to be middle of the road in terms of damage versus throwing speed. And even though these weapons are throwing axes, they still have a clip size, ammo capacity, and reload time. It looks like they didn't really want to take away the ammo refill mechanic for the humans, so it makes sense for them to leave it in. And to be honest, it doesn't really seem like you're going to run out of ammo anytime soon, carrying anywhere between 40 and 56 hatchets around. The other axe types offer different damage outputs at the sacrifice of throwing speed, reload time, and in some cases clip size. The Splitter Hatchet and the Impaler Axe are a bit different than the others. The Splitter Hatchet separates into 2 projectiles when thrown, splitting the difference damage-wise, but useful for constantly hitting your targets, basically opening up your spread. The Impaler Axe does an initial 215 damage on impact, and then damage over time, 100 damage every 2 seconds for however long it lasts. This one is definitely my favorite weapon so far in the entire game. It's kind of like having a lot of the poison bolas. Gotta love that damage over time. Anyway, one unique feature they've added to this class based on feedback is even more customization than they've released with any class before. Usually you can pick up a couple skins for your classes, and that's about it. But seeing that this guy is sporting a massive shield, they figured why not customize that too? So the skins for this class look really legit, and on top of that, they also have additional customization for the shield. I've got my favorite combination skin and shield equipped for these matches, but the default looks like this. So the Vanguard was released with 4 additional skins, all of which look badass, especially the Mark of the Survivor. Nothing better than to look like Shredder killing vamps. But beyond that, you can choose between the 4 additional shield options, all cosmetic of course, no stats on the shields. But they all look nice and work really well with the skins. I think they did a great job with that this time around. And with that said, that's pretty much the gist of the new Vanguard class. Overall, he's now my favorite human class. Go figure. I'd say his only drawback is that he's a bit slower than the other humans, and it seems like it's easy for him to get left behind, which in turn limits his abilities since he's all about, providing support for his allies. Plus, you have to also remember to give your allies the support he's designed to give. You're not quite used to doing that, so that may take a little bit of time. Oh, and they've also added in a few other features to this update, like new scoreboard designs, which looks really nice, new end-of-match screen, and a spectator mode that players have been asking for. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. For more information about the new Vanguard class, check out our detailed write-up linked in the description below, or just head over to the Nosgoth game profile at MMOHuts.com. But until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.